When achievements came out on April 10th, 2013, the Veyron was released as an achievement reward for having 5,000 driver points. This is my second take on making a Veyron review, testing the car in both stock and ultra-parted form. Boy, do I love that SimCity music. In the aftermarket, the car features no body kits or hoods available for purchase. It does have the large spoiler selection of spoilers. And on the subject of the hood of this car, its hood view is very bugged, so avoid using it when you can. Alright, now to do the first run in the drag race at zero durability. Now, the launch, start, basically, they all start almost even, and then they rocket away because of their acceleration. Now, this car isn't particularly bad, but I mean, the other cars are just so much more, especially the parts they have on it at this point. We're not really even at all. But when I do install the part back on, it will even the playing field. And that's because this car is a reliable car. It does not bog down, and it's very easy to get perfect shifts and launch. Just watch. Now, the Koenigsegg just quickly appears and then disappears. That's because it bogged down. This car does not do that at all. And even against the Zonda F, it just has so much acceleration. It does sort of has an edge on me for a little bit, and then I use the nitrous of the 7th gear perfect shift, and I sort of propel ahead a little bit. And the next race I have is sort of for just for fun. I got like more Veyrons around, just had an all Veyron drag race. That was a lot of fun. But even on Turnpike, you can see I'm putting down, I'll tell you the time I get to hit, 11.06 seconds. This is one of those cars that has drastic changes between ultra-parted and stock. Not in just terms of acceleration, but I'm talking in terms of handling and steering responsiveness. The car takes up much less of a road when in corners when it's stock, and the steering responsiveness is almost too responsive. It was a very awkward feeling the first time I drove this car, because I kept hitting traffic because I would try to avoid a traffic car and end up overcorrecting because it's very responsive. It feels very weird at the start, but you'll end up getting used to it unless you put some ultra parts on where it accelerates a lot more heavy and it just feels very solid. It feels super responsive at this point. It is a lot of fun to race though, both stock and ultra parted, but as you can see, even against a GT3 RS 4.0, its acceleration is pretty good. And can corner pretty damn well, all things considered. Because these cars are ultra I'm going up against, and this thing is still stock. It also has a very high stock overall. This is one of the 2 cars currently in game that are S-Class when stock, with the other being a Porsche Carrera GT. So I end up, getting very close to the GT3 RS 4.0, but it still edges me out on this race. In this review, I try to get a bunch of different cars against the Veyron. Got a McLaren F1 and an Agera against it on a straight track, or a highway track, I mean. I also have some more curvy tracks where I have it against the Caterham, or Caterham, however you prefer to say it, I don't know. Got against some Zonda Fs. It's a car that can take on almost any other car. but the more open a track is, the better, because the understeer is not really a problem with this car on these tracks, but it can have more of a damning factor on a, let's say, Garden Boulevard, where you're going to be in tight corners most of the time. It's hard to really squeeze out the power. Also, the thing is a top speed of, I mean, I got up to 258 miles an hour, with, and I think that's right around where it maxes out. Maybe a little bit more if it's like all ultra tuned, but mine's not as ultra tuned. It has a bunch of ultra parts on it, but I mean, I'll show you what the parts are after after a little bit later in the video. But basically, against the McLaren F1 and the Jera, they do have sort of an advantage on me for acceleration. That is true, and also cornering. So you will fall behind a bit, but if you take a better line, you can even out the gap, basically, like I did back there in the tunnel. And now I'm just doing like the hood view and it's a bumper view. The hood view is terrible in this car. Yeah, it can be a deal breaker. So, you know, and then there's the Jera that I'm messing with. I sort of squeezed it out in this corner. Yeah. It's not dirty driving, it's racing. But, like this part, like here's where I get some oversteer with it. It's weird that way. It can oversteer a little bit, but if anything this car's going to do, it's going to understeer. So just be careful on that, especially on like these city tracks where like corners come to sneak up on you. But now I have it against the Caterham. It's like weird because it's like the opposite of a Caterham in real life, like completely. Because Caterham is like a track junkie compared to it's a lightweight track junkie compared to a super heavy top speed mobile thing. It's quite the opposite. So, especially in the twistier parts of this track, it does really get ahead of me. But I can catch it out by using my line more far of a straight line than I would normally be. And I got lucky because I avoided that damn pursuit breaker. But yeah, it's fun against these cars. You can really compete with most cars in the game. Almost all cars in the game. Just not on the really tight technical tracks. That's where it will fall down a bit. But you hear the little oversteer drift pass thing that I did against the McLaren F1. And also just be careful on grass. Like this car is not really that good for Rosewood Rally. It's weird because how all-wheel drive cars severely understeer on this thing. It's not as bad as other cars, but still is pretty hard to drive. And then here is Paradise Hotel, and just blocked it a little bit, but it has a lot of traffic on it, and it's really easy to avoid traffic in this car. A lot more easier than it is with a stock McLaren. I mean, not McLaren, Bugatti Veyron, because when it's stuck, it's almost too responsive. But it really evens out once you put those ultras on it. So it's a great car for racing events, but just not the best. So now to the Team Escape part of the review, where I do a high stakes run. Now, I'm not usually the best at Team Escape. In fact, I'm pretty bad at it. It's just me. I always preferred racing. But I gotta do what I gotta do. And this car is one of the best overall cars in the game for Team Escape. Mostly because it basically checks off all aspects of a great Team Escape car. It has acceleration, which is good enough to get away. And it also has a heavy weight, so its impacts are very powerful. That is very good. Because normally, with a car in this game, you have those hypercars in Class S that always are really light. Or you would have a heavier car that doesn't really handle too good, so kind of a boat, and has some moderate acceleration. Even when I crash into like the heaviest part of these damn cop cars on high stakes, I still maintain a forward momentum, which is very good. The weight is just heavy, so it's really good for Team Escape, especially when just boosting just people out of the way. Like the back of a Rhino, just plow right through that thing. The front of a Rhino will still slow you down, but it's not going to be terrible. You're still going to be able to be fine, like here. Still maintain some forward momentum. Even my car left its wheels on the ground. But just like seriously, if I was in any different car, with the same weight, I probably would have not have even escaped because of the acceleration this thing has. But it's a great car for team escape. In fact, it's a great car for two disciplines. It's a very reliable drag car. And I'm saying that if you're one of those people that keep getting like bogged down at the start of race. That was actually happened to my friend when we were doing the recording, and his Ajera kept bogging down. Just saying, this car does not really bog down at all. I don't know what makes it not bog down. It also is very good at perfect shifts. It just seems almost flawless to do perfect shifts. Also, team escape is another great thing to build it for, because it's heavy enough and accelerates enough. Racing, I mean, if you already have a McLaren F1, you can build it for something else, but it's fine. It's a good car. Well, because this car was clearly not stock, I have to show you the parts that I had on it in case you want to make it like mine. I don't know why you would. But, yeah, so I got some ultra-tune parts on it, but there's always room for improvement. Also, same with the skill mods. I got a 3-star perfect start skill mod, which is a savior. Normally, this would be where I said, is it worth it? And talk about the price and the other cars to compare it to, but there really is none. This is an achievement car, and unlike other cars which are already versions in the game, CCX, M3, this car is the achievement reward, the ultimate achievement reward. And it is a cool car to have in S-Class, and I really like the car in real life, so it was worth it to me, but might not be for everyone.